Hello everyone, Simon here, and we're gonna do a architecture tour of Skyrim. Yes, this game is Skyrim. Here's the map. This is Skyrim, we can't really see it. So, I've been wanting to do this for a while, and we are going to go around the game world of Skyrim and look at some key landmarks. So, in this first video, we're going to walk from the start of the game down to Whiterun. So, for those of you who've never played Skyrim before, when you first start the game, you have a tutorial, and the tutorial takes place back there. Back. There's the Helgen. Helgen, the town, is back there, and things happen in the town, and then you go through a cave, and you exit the cave here. So this is like to Helgen Keep. You see that? So this is where the tutorial ends, and from here, your companion in the tutorial will run down to Riverwood, which is down this path here. And so I just want to start here. So this is not, I mean, this is supposed to be an architecture tour of the game of Skyrim, but there's no architecture to see. But I wanna do this because this very first part of the game is actually one of the most, no, it is the most thoroughly designed part of the game. And by that I mean, this is the part where they spent most time, well, in proportion to like just how big it is, like a lot of time was spent to make sure that this was perfect, or at least a lot of care was taken to make sure this was perfect, because this is like where your first experience of the game is, right? And so if you just kind of pay close attention, you'll see a lot of things that they intentionally did to make sure that this is a good experience to introduce new players into the game. I mean, first of all, this looks great. Look at this view here. There's mountains, and then there's trees. Look at those trees. So this is like the most beautiful sequence of events in the whole game, in my opinion. And this, it might be apparent to you if you've played this game a lot before. Maybe it won't be if you haven't kind of paid as much attention as I have. But okay, so I'm gonna walk down this path. So we're gonna go to Riverwood. And along the way, if you are at the start of the game, your companion will talk to you and kind of explain the game to you, right? So as we walk down this path, you can see there's a very clear path, right? There's snow, but somehow there's no snow on the path, even though this path is hardly ever used because it's a cave. So logically, it doesn't really make sense. But in terms of the gameplay, the path is clear so that you can't miss it. And it's also, so the Elder Scrolls games, they're kind of famous for being open world, right? There's this kind of massive world out there. And you are always given the option at the very beginning to just kind of ignore the path and just start walking somewhere else. You're allowed to do that. But you'll notice it's a lot less interesting. Like, just as we walk over here, it's a lot less interesting, and the view is a lot less beautiful, as it were. So you can do that, and some people do. Some people just completely ignore the main quest and just start walking around, which you are allowed to do. But we're going to follow this path, and I think you're kind of intended, like the game design is kind of intended for most people to follow this path. And the path is not straight, too. And this seems like I mean, the point of paths not being straight is that as the path goes left and right and kind of curls around a little bit, it makes you look around. So the fact that the path is not straight means that you have to look at a lot of different things as you walk. So it kind of, it introduces a lot more views to you, right? So, I mean, you might already notice in the corner of your eye there, that is strange, because like this could be Earth, right? This could be our world. There's mountains, there's trees. This is something like that we might expect in the real world. But that is definitely something that's only in the game world. Like, you don't see a ruin like that in real life anywhere in the world. Like, this is like so that is like the first kind of important, like this is beautiful and that's good, but that is like the first hint of the difference between like the game world and what we might expect in the real world, right? And the way the path goes is you kind of see that out of the corner of your eye, but look, see how this path curves around. So you're walking down this path, and you see nature. All right, good, cool rocks, and that rock formation is also quite impressive. All right, trees are nice, and then the path curves back around, and it puts that right in the middle of your view as you walk down here. Like, you see that? So, like the way the path curves around, it makes sure that this thing enters your view and you can see it. And we're gonna go up there later. Maybe I just go up there later in this video. But the way this is positioned, when you walk up close to it, actually doesn't really make sense. But the way it's placed, it looks a little bit like a rib cage on a mountain. It is actually a tomb, if you don't know. But so it's clearly architecture, right? It's not natural, and so it's a man-made thing. It looks a little bit like a rib cage, a little bit like a skeleton. So that rabbit, I don't think is supposed to be there, but there it is. So that thing they want you to see, and then as you walk up, like it disappears around behind the trees, right? And then this path continues to curve around. And again, you see how this stuff, it channels you along the path, although you can just kind of jump out of it. The fact that the path is clear, so that now that we're below the snow line, so up there it was like white on one side, white on the other, and then brown in the middle. Now it's like, and then it was like green on one side, green on the other, and then brown in the middle. And now it's like rocks on one side, rock on the other, brown in the middle. So the path is very clear all along this. And this is not always the case. Like in some other parts of the game, the path is not as clear as this. Because, this is like, as I said, this is like the first part of the game and they want you to follow this path. So even like this, like the way the log kind of forms a wall there, and then the way these rocks form this wall here. So it really kind of funnels you into this path. And again, look at this. Again, we come down here. We saw the ruin. The ruin dips beneath the trees. And then we curve around, and then we see the ruins again, slightly closer, slightly clearer. So it keeps, like this path keeps kind of curving away and curving back, curving away and curving back, making sure that you see this over and over again. And by this point, I mean, you're supposed to notice it by this point, right? It's pretty big now. And so you're supposed to think, wow, what is that? What is that? I want to see that. And like this is the way they kind of put a, what's it called? Like they put this, I forgot the word, but they put like a landmark or an interesting thing in the distance, and it kind of makes you, the intent of it is to make you want to go there to find out what it is. And so here we come back to this path. So if you play the proper game, this is actually the main path to Helgen. And like this is almost invisible in comparison, right? You see like this path of stones here, it's bright, it's white, it's reflecting the light. Whereas that is like a little brown side path. So when you look backwards, the path is not anywhere near as clear as when we were looking this way. Because this is actually a side path, right? This is not actually a main road in the game. And so when you look this way, it's very clear where you're supposed to go. Whereas when you come this way and you look this way, it's clear that you're supposed to go this way and not that way. So it's actually really clever how they use these little cliffs and trees and logs and snow and just little bits and pieces to make sure they funnel you into the path. And then here, so if you didn't take the side roads before, this is like the first branch in the road. Your companion, if you were following him at the start of the game, will run down this way, and your quest marker will also point that way. And I guess that also somewhat persuades you to kind of keep following and try and find out what that is. But again, you have the option to go somewhere else. And this is like the first time where the option to go somewhere else is as clear as the side path. Whereas before, you could just kind of walk into the trees and just disappear into the wilderness. Here, there's actually a road, and you might be tempted to walk down there. But we're going to go this way because this is where we're supposed to go if we follow the start of the game. And now here, so the path goes down the mountain. And then of course it curves left and right. And then there's river and there's water. This is the first time we see water. And again, look at that. Why does the path have to do this? Well, for one, it's a steep slope. And usually in the steep slope you have the road winding back and forth like this to make sure that the road is not too steep. But also this view. Again, it's picturesque. It's a beautiful view. It's a beautiful landscape. And so the way this road is placed is so that when you walk down and you turn around and you look this way, you get this view. And so like the path itself is designed in such a way as to show off the game world to you. And so this is why we started here. This is why I chose to start here. Even though it's supposed to be an architecture tour. But this is important to architecture because architecture in a lot of ways is about movement through space. Or movement through spaces, and this sort of thing, the way your movement along this path is designed in such a way as to show off interesting things. Oh, it's almost nighttime. Can't see anything anymore. So, and this is important, right? In terms of just kind of design theory, and design kind of using this trick to make people see beautiful things. Anyway, let's keep walking. It's getting dark. You can't really. It's not quite as beautiful in the dark. This is important too. So the Guardian Stones. Part of the tutorial is that they teach you what these stones do. I won't do that, but that's also significant. So they introduce that, which is something that you don't recognize in the real world. The Guardian Stones is also something that's only in the game world. Like, you don't see stuff like this in the real world. Not quite like this. So they kind of alternate between beautiful landscapes that look kind of like Earth, like our real world, and then they also introduce bits that are unique to the game along the way. And then it turns you back away. And again, the path is, look how constrained this is. So now we are starting to head towards Riverwood, which is the town in between the start of the game and Whiterun. And now you don't really have options. So if you didn't take the side paths before, now you're stuck between a mountain on one side and a river on the other. And although you can just kind of jump in the river and start swimming, most people would not do that instinctively, right? And so from this point on, you are channeled into this path, and you don't really have an option to go anywhere else. So they give you that option at the beginning, and now, although there's a mine up there, I think you're allowed to go up there, or this is one of the options that they present to you, and you can see how there's an obvious choice here, where like this path, like even the path here, it doesn't just go straight down there, which is where the path actually goes. They put a tree here to block the view, so that you look this way and see the option. But then the main path curves down, and then the side path goes up, and the side path is clearly less clear than the main path, but it's also clearly there. Whereas if you walk up the other way, you don't even see it. Look at this. If you're walking the other way, you would not even see that side path unless you deliberately turned to see it. So again, the direction of this is quite important, right? Like this staircase, if they turn the staircase down that way, then you would see it from that way. But they don't. Look at this. Those stairs come straight down here, except suddenly here they break it and then they turn it this way, just so that you see it from this direction. I know that it seems like I'm spending a long time talking about a little side path and little steps in the ground, but like even like these little details matter, because by looking at this you can see that they've thought about this. They've thought about presenting this path to you as an option when you're walking in this direction, but not the other direction. And like this tree, again, it's important because it blocks the view. So if they don't block this view, then you wouldn't have as much attention being pointed towards this side path. Anyway, we continue down, and again, you're kind of hemmed in between the mountain here and the raging river there. Like it's not a small river, and even if you swim into the river, you can't climb up those cliffs. So they are very consciously making sure that you are stuck along this path, that you can't really go anywhere else. And the reason for that is because up ahead is Riverwood. Although I guess you do have the option to swim across here if you want to. I think there are a few wolves here, or maybe it's further ahead. Oh, there they are. Found them. Let me deal with these guys. So even these wolves are planned. So because it's as part of the tutorial, they kind of introduce a little bit of combat, right? So these wolves hang out there all the time, and when you're walking down here, they'll attack you. And then once you get past there, I'm not sure. I think this is, yeah. So you notice that when the wolves attack you too, there's no pretty scenery anymore. I was thinking about this. I was like walking up here, like, why did they do this? So here, there's no beautiful scenery to distract you from the wolves. Right, so all the other bits of the road before, they were really kind of interesting and you want to look around. Here, they want you to fight the wolves, and so they don't give you anything interesting to look at. And then after you fight the wolves, you come back here and you're back to the river, and again, this is interesting again. So they remove the visually interesting stuff when they want you to fight the wolves, right? And here, I suppose you have the option of going across to there, although there's actually not much to see there. I mean, the mountains are right there, so there is a little bit to explore there, but not much. Anyway, the path is clear. And this, wow, look at this. Again, the trees here blocking your view. They do this a lot, and you see this a lot in other parts of the game as well. So here, they have kind of this rock. So you can't actually see Riverwood from a distance. Look at that. So Riverwood is right there behind that rock and behind these trees, but you can't see it. So as you kind of curve around here, you start to see the buildings, and then here you see the buildings. Like they deliberately block the view, and then when you're at a close enough range to see everything clearly, then they show this to you. And even then they kind of put a few trees in the way so that you have to walk in to explore, right? Oops. And so now this is Riverwood. And this is the main town. There's a camp up here. I'm not sure why this is here. I suppose we can sleep here if we want. Oh, this is the first time we've seen like a campfire, isn't it? And camp rolls. So I guess that introduces to you that they're sleeping in the game. The wall, again, funnels you into town, right? Although, you know, you might say, well, it's a defensive wall, you know, the city has walls. It's not that crazy. But imagine if the wall wasn't here. Imagine you could like see buildings behind there. You might be tempted to just kind of walk that way. But the game doesn't really let you do that. Like, it kind of puts the gate here, and then it puts this main path here. And even as you look this way, maybe I should like wait until daytime, when it's gonna be more light. All right, let me just wait until daytime so that we can see this more clearly. So this here is like the main street of Riverwood, right? And okay, here we go. And so like if you look down the street, it's very linear. Like there's one path for you to go down, and if you just follow this path, you eventually get to Whiterun, which is your destination. But let's analyze this town a little bit, because I mean the layout of the town is pretty good. There's the water wheel there, obviously using the water to power the water wheel, that's good. But the main path we have an old woman. So this is I think one of the quest givers live here, and so the quest giver would hang out around here. And then further along we have a blacksmith. So he can teach you blacksmithing at the start of the game if you want to. So this is important game mechanics that you get introduced to, blacksmith. And then on the other side there's the shop. So the first time you can buy anything, there's also a quest in here that you can pick up at the start of the game. And then back here we have the inn. So all the public buildings in the game are on the main road, which makes sense, because usually in the town, the shops and the inns and things will be on the main road, because that's where all the visitors come in, on the main road, right? So behind the main road, if you choose to come back this way, there's like one more, there's like two more houses back here, and there's a few farms. And this is your basic town. And actually this is a little bit weird, because this path kind of leads nowhere, although it does lead up the mountain. Actually, where does it lead? Don't quite remember where this leads, but nowhere important. So that's the basic layout of the town. It's not that, I mean, if you look at the scale of it, it looks right, but it's actually really small. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buildings, and one of them is a water mill, so you can't live in it. So there's like 6 places where you can live. So it's a pretty small town, although it has all the pieces, right? It has residential area, it has shops, it has industry, which is the water mill, it has food production, which are the farms. There's like a few crops. I mean, that's not going to really feed a lot of people, is it? That's going to feed like one person for a month, maybe. But you know, this is agriculture, kind of. So everything is smaller than you'd expect, but all the pieces are there. And there's a few quests here if you want to take the time to do them, but we're not going to do that, of course. So then, as we continue along the path, and again the path continues to be very clear. And like even here, as we walk out this way, see these cliffs? These cliffs direct you across the bridge. Like if the cliffs weren't here, you might be tempted to just walk, you know, straight ahead, right? And you can if you want to jump a little bit. But again, like, you know, like there's very kind of clear boundaries along the edge of the path to make sure that you follow it. And this is not always the case in other parts of the game. So as we come across here, there's the birds, right? And then this happens every single time. There's birds, and then as we walk forward, again there's a path here. We are going to go up there soon. But this is cool too, so there's kind of signs here suggesting to you how many different places there are in this game. But let me just come down here a little bit. So there were the birds, and then there's the deer. That deer always waits there. It's always there. And that's because Bethesda, the people who made the game, really want you to see that deer. And then behind it there's a rabbit. Where's that rabbit? There's a rabbit. And it runs towards you for some reason, which is kind of weird. So there's always the birds on the bridge, and then the deer who runs away, and then the rabbit who runs towards you, and then further down there's 2 more wolves. And this always happens. This always happens because these are the things that they want you to see. And that rabbit is confused. So we're going to go down there later, but let me just quickly come up here. We're going to come back later on too. I just want to point this out to you before we get too far. We're not going to go into the ruins. But if we come up here, so remember those ruins that we saw from a distance early on? We can't see them anymore. It's actually behind this mountain here. We will see them again if we follow this path up here. So one of the quests in the town will bring you to this ruin to recover an item that belonged to the person. Here's some wolves. This is actually a bit of a trek. Let me just quickly walk up here. Am I going the right way? And again, the beautiful mountains, the path making sure that you can see this. Oh, this is further away than I remember. Hold on, let me just kill that guy. Oh, that's right, I'm playing on the highest difficulty. Maybe I should switch back to the lowest difficulty, because this might be distracting if we get into a lot of combat. So there's a couple of bandits here. Which, see if we can, actually, are they there? I don't see them. Oh, there's one. That's not gonna hit him. Oh, wait, he stopped. Is he still alive? Oh, this. Alright, so let's not get into too much combat. So if we come all the way across, so a watchtower? We never saw this watchtower from below, did we? So this is like another kind of structure in the game that I suppose the game designers want you to see. So this path really, look at this. Look at the way this path curves around. Like, why would this path? I mean, like, it's so inefficient, right? You would think that a path should just kind of come straight up and be done with it. But they want you to, like, they're forcing you to meet this tower. So they're kind of forcing you to walk into the tower and have to deal with those bandits, right? So the way these paths are kind of arranged cause you to walk in a certain way, and it kind of brings you around the hill. And now here are the ruins. Actually, let me just go clear sky just so this stops snowing. So now we approached the ruins from the other side. So we saw it on the mountains from the opposite end, and now we're on this side and we see it up close. And that's pretty amazing. I don't really want to spend too much time on it now because I want to come back later on and look at the actual ruins in more detail. But look at this. See how this line of structure... Oh crap, there's more enemies. Let me just go into my settings and switch this back to... just so that we don't have to spend as much time dealing with the enemies, right? So as a structure, this thing doesn't really make... like, the layout of it doesn't really make too much sense because the main door is there and you have this massive staircase. Like, the scale of it is kind of crazy when you walk up to it. But of course it needs to be this big in order for it to be seen from the other side of the valley, right? So usually with a giant kind of monument like this, the axis of it would lead somewhere important. Like you would think that the main entryway would face something important. But as we kind of walk down here, it kind of goes nowhere. Look at this. It just stops. And there's nothing here. Like the path doesn't even come up the middle. Like why would there be a staircase leading to nowhere, right? And the reason that it's like this is because they need to place this thing at this particular angle so that you could see it from across the valley in a position that looks good. And then they also need to put the path on the other side so that when you come up close to it, you again see it at this 3/4 angle in order for like this view to look good. Like they want you to walk up this way, up the side. So they, like this is a good view. It's a 3/4 view, right? It's pretty impressive. You kind of see the side of it and the front of it at the same time. So that's pretty impressive. But so in order to make the player see this impressive view of this structure, the actual front of it leads nowhere. so they made it completely like it's illogical in terms of, you know, if you were the person designing that thing, it doesn't really make sense to place it like that. But it makes sense for the spectator and for the player to see it in a way that's more impressive, which I think is kind of funny that they but it's an indication of what they prioritize, right?
Just don't go burning down any buildings.
Anyway, so we come back here. Let's
Smile on you, friend.
run forward a little bit. So coming back to this, which is our journey down to Whiterun. So we cross the bridge. There's the birds, and then there's the deer, and then there's the rabbit. So again, as we cross to the other side of the river, again, like there's these cliffs. Although you can kind of walk up there, visually it discourages you from straying from the path. And this again, like it blocks your view. And there's the river on the other side as well. Usually, people instinctively don't jump in the water. Like in the real world, you wouldn't just jump in the water because you'll get wet, and that's annoying. But in the game, obviously, it doesn't actually matter if you jump in the water. But still, you know, it's more of like a psychological discouragement. So there's rocks here, and we follow this path down here. This is also quite nice, right? We've got river on one side, rocks on the other. A nice stroll along the mountains. And then here we get our first glimpse of Whiterun. In between the trees, in the distance, like this is not a coincidence, right? Like the path is right here. It leads you this way, and it points right at your destination. And the reason they do this is because they want you to see it. They want you to see it, but not only to see it, but to have it half hidden between the trees, so you kind of see it, but you kind of don't. And then again, the path kind of curves away, and there's wolves over here, I think. Where are they? Are they gone? Maybe they're gone, or maybe they're further down. So again, like the path curves around. Why do this? It literally curves backwards. Why do this? Because when you turn around, again you see a little glimpse of it, a little glimpse of Whiterun in between the trees. Oh, I killed. Oh, did I do this already? Did I do this? I didn't do this. Anyway, we killed the wolves already. So like the path literally curves backwards to make you come this way and see this stuff. And then it curves around again. It's like you kind of get a glimpse of it, but again it curves you around. It doesn't lead you straight down. It forces you to come over this way. And then it curves back again, and there it is again. There it is again. There's the city. So every time the path bends around a little bit, you see a slightly different view of your objective. And it's slightly closer every time you walk closer to it. And it just looks good. Look at it. Look at that thing. It's a giant castle on top of the hill.
Oh, you're right. We've made a mistake. Now move along before that.
And then the path comes around this way, and as you go down, you can see how the trees gradually thin out as you go down, and you see more and more of the city. So this is like a slow, I guess it's like a striptease. Although maybe that's, I don't know, if you think architecture is porn, that this is striptease. Like it's slowly showing you more and more of the building and more of the city as you walk towards it, just to kind of, make sure you get the full view of it. And then as we get down here, the path is this way. And then again, the path bends back the other way, and you see the town again. So here, this is like a crossroad. There's a bridge going that way, there's a bridge going that way, and then there's the city that way. And your quest marker, if you were at the start of the game, the quest marker will point you that way, so you'll turn left here. But, so this is the crossroad. You might come back here later on if you want to go somewhere else. So there's like a lot of options now if you want to go somewhere else. But again, like the path comes back this way, and there it is. Finally, the trees are gone. Finally, you're up close to it. And look at that. Right at this distance, the city fills the view. Like it sits perfectly framed in your computer screen at this distance, at this angle. Like this is not a coincidence, right? Like all along the way, we've seen how the path has been laid out in such a way as to frame these views for you. And so this is where I'm going to end the first video. So that was like the start of the game. And unless you decide to just kind of walk into the wilderness and ignore the tutorial, that was more or less how you experienced the first moments in this game. And every single part of it was the game showing you beautiful things and showing you interesting things to just kind of draw you into the game, make you want to play the game more. Like every part of it was the game trying to make you really kind of get into it, right? So this ends the first video. In the next one, we talk about, of course, Whiterun, which is that city right there in front of us. Alright, I'll see you all in the next video.